great start of the year. So I'm here today with Rachel Onamusi, and I'm so happy to have you here to start the year fresh and really good talk. Hello, Rachel. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Happy New Year, Gemma, and Happy New Year to the rest of the people out there listening to us. Looking forward to an amazing 2021. So thank you very much for having me on this show. I've watched a few of your shows, and your work is really, really impactful and powerful. So it is such a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you very much, Rachel. It's really nice to have you here. I'm really
Thank
thankful
you,
to have you here.
thank you.
How is everything? Do you have a good Christmas? Everything great?
Yes, it was quiet, obviously, because
Yes.
we're in very, very difficult times at the moment. But I think when things are like this and they are quiet, and it gives you time to focus and to
Mhm.
actually define for yourself what is important and what are the things you want to elevate as opposed to other things. So there's certain things you have to go without, and you think, I didn't really miss it. It didn't really make much of a
Yes.
difference. And then there are other things that you think, oh, this is what this is about, or this is what it really gives you tunnel vision and focuses what's important. So I think it was really a time for self-discovery for me, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really quiet,
That's
but
great.
nice.
Great.
Nice. Thank
Happy for
you.
you. And
Thank
can,
you very
can you
much.
tell us a little about your background so the people listening they know a little about yourself and your work?
Of course. So, as you already mentioned, I'm Rachel Onamusi. I'm the CEO of VN Sync. To put what I do succinctly, it would be that I tell stories.
Hmm.
I um, help you identify exactly what your brand is, move that message along, and let people understand exactly what your brand is, what your values are, what you align with, and therefore we tell the story that you want to tell. So we it might be in the guise of marketing, for example, or moving your giving your products or your personal brand awareness. But what I do is I tell stories that you want to tell. I help you formulate the stories you want to tell, and we move that to the end goal that you want from your audience. And I do this with personal brands, I do
Hmm.
this with small startups, I do it with global corporations, both in the private and the public sector. So the core of what I do is I tell stories that the client wants to get out there.
Yeah, that's something really important
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, yeah,
And we're going to talk about brand management, but can you tell a short definition of what brand management is? Because everyone knows brands and they follow brands,
yes,
they love brands, but what is
yes.
brand management?
Right. So brand management basically is the sum total of how your brand is perceived. It's not just what you say your brand is, it is what people perceive your brand to be. So if your brand is no, so first of all, if you don't have a brand, if you're not intentional about what do I want people to think when they think of my company? What sort of images, what sorts of experiences do I want it to elicit? What do I want them to if you're not intentional about creating that brand, the public will create it for you, unfortunately. They
Exactly.
will make up their minds what they think your brand is. And sometimes because we have such a prevalence of services and products and things like that, sometimes they don't even create your brand for you. Sometimes they just
Hmm.
ignore your brand. If they can't
True.
work out what your brand is supposed to stand for, they will just move on to the next brand. So it's something that not just what you are telling people your brand is, but it's also what your brand acts daily, what it
Hmm.
does, what values it aligns itself with, what sort of products you sell, what sort of ways do you sell the products, how do you want to be perceived and be seen by the public is what brand is, and then how we manage it to make sure that we're not only getting your story or your voice or your message across, but in a way that is profitable for the client. So you have to work out a way that not only do I want them to think this about my brand. I want them to know, like, and trust my brand to the point that they buy from my brand, be that products, be that services, be that whatever else you happen to be engaged
Mhm.
in. So that is in a nutshell what brand management is.
Okay, thank you. You explained it
Well,
really clear. And how do you create a brand? How do you start?
okay, so I think the first thing that you need to start with is what problem are you looking to solve? And the reason why a lot of people struggle with brand management is because sometimes a lot of people don't know why they're in business. So they
Mhm.
don't, they just think, oh, everybody needs phones. I'll start selling phones because if I sell phones and people use cell phones, then I'm going to make a lot of money. If you think like that, you're going to have a problem developing a brand and understanding what your brand is because you didn't look to solve a problem, you looked to make a profit. And
Mhm.
usually, if you enter into the market with that approach, um, it blinds you to certain things that you should be aware of, and you need to. So, if you thought I wish there was a way that I could enhance communications in my town, in my village, then you would say, oh, well, there's this great thing called a mobile phone. So
Mhm.
your brand is you are enhancing communications either in a faster way, either by producing more mobile phones, either as a retailer. So you create a brand by deciding what problem you're solving, number one. And then number
Mhm.
two, what values are you going to imbibe when you're creating these products? What's going to be most important for you? What is the thing that you're most going to be known for? I nourish people's bodies, so I'm in the food industry. I nourish people's bodies through the retail of organic food stuff. So
Mhm.
sustainability is important to me, and being environmentally aware is important to me.
Yes.
So that's how you create your brand. Your brand starts with what problem you're hoping to solve, and then goes on to, well, how are you going to do that? And then it goes on to what platforms are you going to be more digital than conventional or traditional? Are you going to use bricks and mortar? So I want a shop that people can walk into the shop and buy my product, or I don't want to shop. I want to be completely modern and forward thinking, and I want to be purely online. So these are all the factors that go into
Mhm.
determining how your brand is created and what your brand should represent. So your brand should align with your values. Now, if you think about it, a brand that prides agility, modernity, and a bootstrap mentality is going to have a very different look and feel in terms of colors and fonts and things like that from a brand that prides traditional,
Mhm.
old fashioned, bricks and mortar, doing things in a certain conventional way. That brand will have a very different look and feel from a brand that is a younger startup brand, a more which will
Yes.
be different from a brand that's urbane. So you create your brand based on what do I want to be known for. Will inform what colors, what fonts, what tagline, what products, what. So you create it by understanding your own story and what you're in business for.
Yes. Yes. Totally agree. And this is important not only for companies but also for personal brand because it happens the
Absolutely.
same. If you don't know what you are showing to the people will create an image about you.
Yes, yes, exactly. So you need to be very
Yes.
intentional in personal branding as well as to, well, what do I want to, what is the impression I want to leave people with? Now, we all have brands. Some
Mhm.
of them are unconscious. So
Yes.
there are people who think, oh, Gemma, she's so fun loving, she's so great. Now, you didn't go to sleep thinking, tomorrow I'm going to make sure I wake up and I'm fun loving and I'm entertaining and I'm amusing. So sometimes we unconsciously create brands.
True.
If we're looking to create a brand in a professional setting, then we have to be more intentional
Mhm.
about the kind of brands that we create. What do we want to define ourselves as in this space, in the corporate space, in the personal space. So you have to be very intentional. Otherwise, people will
Mhm.
either A, create their own brand of you, or B, ignore you totally. Like, I don't know. There's something about Gemma. I'm not quite sure how to place her. And they move on to the next person.
Yeah, they put a tag on you, and
Yes, yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
it's the right
And
one,
that
sometimes, yeah,
it's the wrong
exactly,
one. And sometimes it's very, very difficult to shake. So
exactly.
when you hear people say things like, the first impression counts, or it's the
Hmm.
most important impression, and things like that, this is why you
Yeah,
have to
it's
be
true.
intentional about what you say to people and how you make sure that you are perceived.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and you need to be consistent. But why is
Yeah.
so important in brand to be consistent?
Um, so before I say why branding needs to be important, I'll tell you exactly why inconsistency is so damaging to your
Yes,
brand.
that's a
So
good
if you
point.
yes, if you think about your favorite, think about a franchise restaurant or cafe. So let's think about Starbucks, for example.
Hmm.
So if you've been in a Starbucks before, you know exactly what to expect in a Starbucks, you know how it works, you go to the counter. What if you went into one day and it looks nothing like the other locations?
Yeah, you are like,
You
huh?
walked in and it's like
I'm in the wrong place. I
every
start looking for like, oh,
I'm in the wrong place. Yes, so you start looking for, so we instantly look for identifiers,
hmm.
the things we've come to identify with this brand. I expect sometimes it's not even in the decor or the color, it's in the
The feeling.
tone, the
Hmm.
feeling. Yeah, it's in the ambience, it's in the what's going on here. This doesn't feel, it gives you a sense of distrust.
Hmm.
So instantly you're on edge and
Yes.
you're what is this? What is going on here? Instantly you have suspicion, you have a sense of distrust, and if this feeling persists and nothing happens to right this feeling, the person will leave.
True.
If the brand is inconsistent consistently, that means I go in today, it's great. I go in tomorrow, not so great. I go in next
Hmm.
tomorrow, it's a different color. I go into if the brand is consistently inconsistent, the customer will stop dealing with the brand.
Hmm.
So a one-off, go, maybe there's just something different about that branch. If every single time I go into Starbucks, I don't get the latte the same way I'm used to getting my latte, I don't they sometimes they have the rocky road, sometimes they don't have the rocky road. I go into McDonald's and I one day it's salads, the next day it's they're selling shoes, or the day after that it's
Hmm.
something different. The customer will leave, not out of anything they want to do or not want to do, but because we are wired to
Hmm.
short circuit answers. So we go, by the time I go in the first time, the second time, the third time, I now know Starbucks needs to be like this, like this, like this.
Hmm.
So our brain doesn't let us experience things as new things all the time. It
Exactly.
gives us the opportunity, it short circuits to this is mummy. When I need something, I go to mummy. I don't need
Yes.
to relearn the experience. Who's this woman? I wonder what she does. I wonder why she's here. I wonder. The brain doesn't work like that. The brain short circuits to answers. And if the answer is inconsistent, the brain doesn't know what to do with that information. It will
True.
just park it elsewhere and just say, I don't know what you do here. What do you sell? What are you doing? So, continuity is about, it's important for control, it's important for management, and it's important for the narrative of the brand. So you don't know how important it is until you see a part of a logo is missing. Or sometimes you even hear, so I was watching a comedy one day and someone said, ha ha ha, just do it. And instantly your brain goes, oh, just do it. That's a Nike
Yes. True.
tagline.
That's
That's a
true.
Nike. So you start to associate, and that is what is
Hmm.
so powerful about the consistency of branding, which is why Coca-Cola can write a Christmas message Just using their Coca-Cola font, and you know that this is a Coca-Cola advert.
Yeah, everything you
You
see
don't need
about
to see a
Coca-Cola, you
can
know
of
is them.
Coke. Yeah, you don't need to see a can of Coke to understand that, oh, it's a Coke advert. Oh, okay. I know the signature red and I know the font. Those are all the things I need to know. So again, with the tagline, with the content, even with the voice. So I'm used to Google stuff, for example. It's it's a tech company, it's hip, it's fun, it's funky, I wouldn't walk into Google and expect to get into a Google office and expect to get the ambience or the environment of an investment bank, for
True.
example. If I walked into a Google office
Yeah,
and
you will
everybody
feel
was
like,
in three-piece suits and everybody, I was like, right, okay, something has happened and I don't know what it is. I don't, I don't want.
yes,
So yeah, it's brand consistency is important because without it, your customer will shelve your brand. Not on purpose, but because they don't know what to do with it. Their brain
yes,
doesn't allow them to receive different stimuli about the same thing over and over again. That's why you have to be consistent in your colors, in your messaging, even in your tone, like we just said about Google, not just the way, but even the way the company dresses or the way the ambience of the place and the kinds of things you've come to expect from the place is about you have to consistently send that message, and that is what consistently builds expectations.
yeah, that's true.
So
And then you ask the customers what they left, and they don't know how to explain. They say it's something
yes,
strange,
something's off,
but this,
strange.
yeah, the
Yes,
expectation are
where
not, the
yes,
expectation
it's
were
like,
not
oh,
met.
I don't
So,
know, it just wasn't, and they can't put it into words. And what they
true.
can't put into words is the brand you've
Mm-hmm.
taught them
Yes,
to expect, and now you are disappointing them with this brand. So
exactly.
when you make a brand, create a brand, and say, you know what? This is what we're about. This is who we are. This is what we do. This is how we plan to do it. These
Mm-hmm.
are the promises we make to our customers. And these are the promises we're going to keep with our customers. You need to then do those things
Yes,
consistently. Your voice has to meet, your actions have to match your voice every time.
yes.
Every time. So, one of Starbucks's um, in-house promises, for example, is that their a customer should be able to get a Starbucks coffee, a branded coffee, so the latte should taste the same whether you're in America or in Tokyo or in Spain. It should be the same. So that consistency is why people
Mm-hmm.
look for the sign and go, oh, I know as soon as I walk into the store, I know what I'm going to get. I know what to expect. And I plan on getting certain things that will be the same wherever I am. So,
Yes, exactly. We have one
mhm.
question, but I think it's better if we leave the questions for the end,
Okay.
for the
So,
public, and then we can continue and then leave
fantastic.
the
Okay.
questions, Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so yeah, because I think when we are with the flow, it's better to continue,
Yes.
and then we have all
Then
the
to
questions
break
at
the
the
flow.
end and everything.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure, sure,
yeah,
sure.
and how can social media help brands to grow and to be more
Okay,
consistent?
fantastic. So, social media has been, I'm gonna put it up there as one of the greatest inventions of our time, just like the invention of the wheel, because it has democratized advertising.
Yes.
Before, it used to be you need a budget to put an advert in a newspaper or to put an advert on TV or to put an advert on radio. Now you can connect with people in the most intimate way. And if your
Hmm.
story rings true, if they feel like they can relate with the brand, then they will patronize you. And it doesn't even have to be we've seen phenomena that has blown up with just through social media with
Yes.
the smallest of budgets with minimal, it could
Hmm.
just be
Yes,
exactly
true.
like what you're doing. We met on social media,
Yes,
and
true.
this uh, production is going out across social media, it's going out across YouTube, and we're making use of channels with, and look at us, you're in your house, I'm in my house,
Hmm.
with the minimum of expenditure. So social media helps with increasing brand awareness. So how would I know? How would I know that there is Gemma Rubio in Spain who creates this much impact to her listeners, to her? How would I know if I didn't have social media? So social
Yeah,
media
that's true.
gives you a platform, gives you a job, gives you the opportunity to use your voice for something and let people know what you're doing across the world, by the way. So before, if you had a shop, okay, maybe people in the town know that Tom the fishmonger has a fish shop on the end of the high street. But people in the next town don't know this. They don't have this information. Um, Social media is great for lead generation. So once you've embedded your brand and people know what your brand is and what you do, you can reach out and actually find leads, find the kind of people who are looking for the kinds of products or services that
Hmm.
you actually offer. It increases community engagement. Imagine being able to just go on Facebook Live, just turn it on and speak to your customers and just talk to them. And it's also fantastic. One of the things that I think is least appreciated about how amazing social media is brand protection. So it used to be, if I had a bad service on an airline or in a restaurant, or
Hmm.
I'll tell all of my closest friends, I'll tell everybody that I know, and I will tell them, don't ever go eat at that restaurant because I went to that
Hmm.
restaurant and it took me 2 hours to get served. And I couldn't, when the food came, it was cold, it was horrible. And then the owner of the restaurant starts to notice that their footfall or their traffic is falling and doesn't know why and doesn't have the opportunity to fix the problem.
Yes.
I will never go back. So I don't even have the opportunity to tell the restaurateur, this is what you did that turned me off your restaurant. Oh my gosh, with social media, people are tagging airlines.
Yes.
Hey, Southwest, my luggage has been missing for 2 days now. What are you doing? Come on. And the airline can say, we're really sorry about that. Let's speak to you
Yeah, they can
inbox.
solve. Yeah.
And you can turn the most irate customers into the most loyal evangelists
True.
of your business through social media just by handling. You now have something that is more valuable than gold, something that is, I get to speak to the people who were disappointed.
Hmm.
You never had that opportunity. They just go home and tell their friends.
True.
Now they tell you, they will tag you, they will tell you. You'll see it on Yelp reviews, you will see it on TripAdvisor, you will see it. You get the opportunity to fix whatever's wrong with your brand, to iterate. You get feedback, you get to make the changes that you need to make to actually build and be better in every single thing that you do, because it can't be that two, three, 5, 10, 20 people are saying the same thing about your brand and they are wrong. One
Exactly.
person has a bad experience, it's to be expected. You cannot have 100% feedback all the time. But you can actually measure. You have metrics. You, for the first time, oh yeah, you brought me to something. My brain is something so important. Yes, so PR, you can actually handle PR in a way that was previously impossible for brands. And if they use it correctly, they can actually build. The other thing is metrics. For the first
Hmm.
time, we can measure our audience. We can say, actually, 25 to 40-year-old women living in a certain area are the people more likely to use my products. So
Hmm.
actually, I don't have to market to everybody and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Maybe I can make my marketing a little bit more feminine.
Yeah, you
Maybe
can
I can
connect.
add certain words to my copy to connect with my exemplar. This is no longer who I thought would use my business. This is what the metrics are showing me are the people who use my business. I can see where they live. I can see demographics. I can see their interests. I can see what they like. I can see what they're into. So really seriously, I think it's one of the most powerful inventions that we've had, certainly in a very long time. So for brands, I think it's important to harness every single part of it to move forward. I really do.
And it's important what you say about the feedback. It's really important to pay attention because not
Yes.
everyone tell you. Also, when they
Yes.
are not happy,
Yes.
they not tell you. It's
Yes.
a really small
Yes.
percentage. So
Yes.
when they
Yes.
tell you, it's like, okay, this information
Thank
is
you. It's
is really
valuable.
important.
Yes.
Give
Yes.
thanks and do
Yes.
something with
And then do
this.
something about it. So what we found with reviews, for example, on Yelp and all of that is unless their minds are blown,
Hmm.
people seldom remember to return to leave positive feedback.
Hmm.
Oh, but they will tell you about the negative feedback.
True.
They will tell you. So it's really important to take that feedback on face value, no hard feelings. This person wasn't attacking me personally. This person just didn't not have a great experience. Now, one feedback, you can apologize and say, look, I'm really sorry.
Hmm.
So, I mean, we're seeing brands give away vouchers. Look, we're really sorry for the experience. Here is a 20
Hmm.
euro Amazon voucher, or here's 20% off your next purchase with us. So you give someone a 20% voucher, they're going to come back.
Yeah. And you say
They're going to,
sorry. That is really important to accept the
yes,
mistakes.
yes, they're going to come back and they're going to go back and say, you know what, had a really negative first impression at Gemma's toy shop. But now I went back and they made everything right, or they found my luggage, or they
Hmm.
apologized, or I got a bunch of flowers, or they made it up to me, or they get sent me a free flight for again, so it's so powerful to be able to right your wrongs, and social
Hmm.
media gives you a vehicle to do this.
Yeah, this is great. This is
Mm,
really
mm,
powerful.
mhm.
And what do you think brands should look towards for thriving in the post-COVID era?
Right. So I think one of the most important things is to throw out the old rule book.
Hmm.
We're not going back. There's
No.
no back. There's no, oh, once all of this goes away, we'll go back to our old lives. No, this is the new normal and it's here to stay. I think it is very important for brands to reimagine the customer journey. Think about, this is how we used to do business. This is the UI, so the customer
Hmm.
interface. They come through the doors, we welcome them with this, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then they buy, and then post post customer service care, or post service care, or whatever
Yes.
you want to call it. You are now in a situation where you have to pivot. You have to constantly think on your
Hmm.
feet. You have to constantly make strategic partnerships. You have to rethink customer engagement using technology. You have to
Hmm.
work out, oh, actually, I don't need all the members of my HR department to come into the office every day.
Yes,
Why
true.
do I need HR in the office? They can work from home. That's fine. They just create the salaries at the end of the month and make sure that everybody gets paid. We will give everyone laptops, and we will install software to ensure that they can do their work remotely, and then, the work continues. So I think it's very important that brands get to reimagine and rethink how they thought they could get customers, customer retention, how they thought they would keep their customers, and what sort of value they would be adding to their customers now that the old ways no longer work. Now, this will have to do with innovation. This will have to do with iteration. This will have to do with connecting with the customer. You can't
Hmm.
think of the answers in your head. You have to have polls, surveys, make use of social media, put it in a fun way, put it in a serious way, put it in whatever way you want to put it, but make sure they tell you what is now important to them now that a lot of our lives, our purchasing behaviors has transferred to a digital realm. So you're going to have to leverage any company or personal brand or person. No, 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 we don't do it like that. No, 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 we don't do that. We are not interested in. Is going to find themselves go in the way of the dodo. You're going to find yourself prehistoric if you don't leverage technology to rethink your customer journey and how you connect with your customers. So I think it's going to require a lot of pivoting and a lot of
Hmm.
technology use to move forward.
Yeah, completely agree.
Mhm,
And how can
mhm.
branding drive innovation?
So the way branding drives innovation is to, I think a lot of brands, personal or organizational, get in their own way. They've been doing something for 13 years, 25 years, the same way. No, this is how we do it. I don't want to talk about this.
Sounds
This is,
familiar.
we, we can't change this. Oh my God, but what are we supposed to do with the head of whatever departments? And this will mean this department is going to have to change and it's just not possible, or it's too expensive, or it's impossible. Brands can drive innovation by, first of all, peeling back the layers and going back to what you do. So,
Hmm.
back in the story of, I want to sell mobile phones because everybody's selling mobile phones and everybody now has a mobile phone. You have to remember, no, 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 no. I don't sell mobile phones. What I do is I enhance communication. So it may be that a mobile phone is no longer the vehicle to do that. It may be teleconferencing tools. I'm
Hmm.
communicating with you right
Yes.
now and the listeners. It may be so you have to create something of value. You still have to solve a problem. And when you have that front and center and forefront in the way that you think, it will drive innovation. It will push you to think of new ways of doing things. The other thing is that when the brand owner, either a CEO of a long term existing brand or a startup, shows leadership, self awareness, listening skills, connecting with the public, empathizing, understanding. Okay, Gemma has to work from home. What do I need to do to give her to
Hmm.
make this possible in such a way that she continues to perform in the way that she used to perform when she
Hmm.
was coming every day to the office? And by me innovating through that process, I may find out that actually Gemma becomes a much more valuable and productive member of my workforce because she's not spending 1 hour commuting to work and 1 hour
Hmm.
commuting home every day. I may find out through my innovation in the workplace that I'm actually increasing the quality of Gemma's life because it means she can pick up her kid from school, or she no longer has to use a daycare facility. So she is more focused when
Hmm.
she is at work, because before she used to come into the office and she used to be, oh my God, who's going to pick up the kid, and oh my God, what's going to happen, and I'm stuck here. And
Yes.
if Gemma's not having those distractions, because I have through innovation made Gemma's working life more productive, I now have a more valued or valuable element to my workforce. The other thing is robust business planning and iteration. So, how are you turning things around? How are you how are you can't, it used to be, we're going to have to wait for the sales department to sit down and then we'll move it over to the marketing department, and then we will tell them you can't now just get everybody on a Zoom call. It doesn't, or on a
Yes.
Skype call, or
Yeah,
Microsoft
really
Teams or
fast.
whatever it is. Yeah, now you can iterate, you can make turn things around and provide solutions. You're in the business of providing solutions, not in the business of having meetings. So you can
Yes.
actually iterate and make things much easier. You now start working with strategic partners. Now you're thinking, okay, so if my CEO can't fly to Tokyo for that meeting to shake hands and sign, how do we do it? So are we utilizing apps? Are we making use of virtual platforms? Are we doing things? Are we having
Hmm.
a DocuSign where a document is signed digitally, for
Hmm.
example? Are we making business move ahead because we're having strategic partnerships? And finally, we have to focus on institution building. What do we do when the old ways are no longer possible, or when the leaders in the organization are not available? How do we do when you're out of the office, or when, oops, trying to
What?
something happened, a reaction just popped my screen? Apologies for that. So
It's okay.
now we have to standardize and automate processes. So in this way, make the leaders or the business, either the personal brand or the organization can drive innovation. The brands can just move innovation ahead and utilize it. It's nothing to be afraid of. Of course, it means coming out of your comfort zone, but that's where the magic resides anyway. You come out of your comfort zone and then magic happens. You start to see solutions,
That's
you
true.
start to work with people who will give you the kinds of solutions that will move your business ahead. So, yeah, in these ways, I think brands can drive innovation for them and for their customers.
Yeah,
So,
removing barriers for everyone.
yes, yes, yes. Wide open working relations and interactions. Absolutely.
Yeah, so now for closing, I would
Hmm.
like to ask you if you have to name three, four main steps in order to create a great brand, things that people
Okay.
need to take into account, what would you say? The
Hmm.
most important steps.
I think the first step has got to be authenticity.
Hmm.
I see too many brands who try to copy existing brands
Yes.
in what they think is what makes a great brand. There, you, even if your brand was, I don't have a brand, I just want to make money. That's fine. There is a way to ethically enhance profit.
Hmm.
It's fine. None of us are in business. If we were in business without wanting to make money, it wouldn't be called business. It would be
Yeah,
called a non-profit organization. We're in
exactly.
business to make money. So be authentic with yourself. Find out what drives you. What are you passionate about? What problems do you want to solve? What demographic do you want to solve this problem for? Is your solution in with women? Is it in tech? Is it with financial inclusion? Is it in the educational system? Is it in the healthcare system? You find out what your solution is. You make sure that your voice is authentic. You write down 4 to 5 goals, maybe not goals, values
Yes.
that your business is going to align with. We will make sure that we always do this. We will make sure that we always do this. We will make sure that we are found in places where they're discussing sustainability and our agricultural products. So, if you're in the business of making food or selling food, our agricultural product will always be organic. If you work with shoes or you want to start selling shoes, you need to make sure that, well, what sort of, I, you know what? I only deal in high end shoes. This is who I am. This is what I'm interested in. I'm very sorry. I'm not going to be selling to the high street customer or whatever. I want to sell high
Hmm.
end designer shoes. That's fine.
Hmm.
But if you don't put that down on paper, you'll be like, oh, but this shoe, I hear the profit margins on this shoe is really great, so maybe I should sell this shoe as well. Okay, but this shoe
Then you
is
lose.
20 euros.
Yes.
It's this is not in your brand. This shoe does not belong in your brand. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter what the profit margin on the shoe is. So the first thing is to be authentic. The second thing is to work out, no, start with work it out what your solution is. What is the problem you're trying to solve? Work out what your passions are, be completely authentic in your voice, and don't be ashamed if your vision is not as noble as other brands. Don't try to force your brand into your perceived idea of what a good brand should look like. It's okay to say, oh no, I bake cakes and I make cakes. I don't have a big dream of taking over the world. I'm just a little baker. Okay, but do you bake some of the yummiest chocolate fudge brownies in Madrid? Write it down. Just say,
Yes.
look, I don't know a lot of things, but I know my chocolate fudge brownie is the best chocolate fudge brownie. Write it down. So you make sure that this principal product is central to your offering. I have a lady friend who created a business around cinnamon swirls, which are like
Hmm.
cinnabons. I don't know what you call them.
Yes. Yeah, I know what it is.
So they sell coffee, they sell, but cinnamon swirls is the central. This is what they do. They sell these cinnamon swirls, and everybody, they bake it in the morning, and the whole street has got this bake. And they have children's parties where children come in and learn how to make cinnamon, and they can draw their little names and have little ears like Mickey
Oh,
Mouse and
mhm.
Minnie Mouse and all this kind of stuff. Gemma, you cannot get a party before July. They are booked
Wow,
solid
that's
six
great.
months in advance. Just find your voice, find your passion, and
Yes.
build your brand around it. That's the most important thing. I think that's
Okay. Yeah, that's a great advice, Rachel.
yeah.
And now we have a question from Antonio Sanchez.
Ah,
And what he's
Antonio.
asking is if you can mention one brand that you admire and why
Mhm.
you admire that brand. We all have one, at least.
I wonder which brand that would be. This is a really interesting question. I've never thought about this. So there's a personal brand. I'm not sure that I can mention their name. He's Nigerian and he's a banker. There's two in a personal space. And his social media is the perfect balance of professional, career, his bank. He elevates other people. He says, listen, you guys need to see what Gemma is doing. It's not me, 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 me. And a little bit about his family. It's not intrusive, it's not too personal. He's a little bit playful. You find out he has a dog. He sometimes has a picture. It's a little peek behind the curtain of this man, who this man is, what is important to him, and all of this.
Oh,
There's
that's
another
nice.
that is a lady who is in the digital technology space, and her brand is amazing because you would think that being a director in a digital technology space, it would be all about technology, but actually she is about leadership and innovation and transformation and actually pushing learning, so that those brands come across to me as people who are really making an impact and really getting their brand voice out there. In terms of corporate brands that I love, oh my goodness, I've never thought about this,
That's a
but
difficult question. I was
it's
thinking
a
also about
difficult
myself.
question. So I have different things. I love Netflix.
Yeah.
I love Netflix as a brand, not necessarily as the programs on them, but if you follow their journey, there used to be, you had to take the tapes back to
Mhm.
the to the actual Netflix stores, and they used to have these little pods that you had to post you take this
Mhm.
the DVD or the whatever, and you post it back. So I love the way they have grown with the times. They you now have these accounts and you watch everything digitally. You don't have to leave your house, and so there's a phrase about Netflix and chill where someone comes round
Yes.
to your house, but they didn't squash the phrase. They didn't say, oh, we don't want to be associated with something like this. They own it and they say,
Yes. Yeah,
what are
that's
you
true.
watching for Netflix and chill? So they are a brand that rides the trends, have grown with technology, continue to grow with technology, continue to make and now they are creating their own content. So they are not just a
Mhm.
video rental store.
Yeah,
So
that's
back to
true.
what I was saying about, are you just a I sell mobile phones, or do you enhance communications? They give us entertainment.
Mhm.
That's all they do. How they've done it over the years has changed to adapt to technology and things like that. But the way they have grown as a company, the things that they have done, I also admire Zoom. Now that I can think of one,
Yeah.
now I can
Oh,
think of
Zoom.
lots.
I never
I
use Zoom. I admire Netflix the way they did it, but Zoom,
Yes,
I
yeah,
want
no.
to know
So
your way of
yeah,
seeing it.
again,
I'm
for me,
curious.
it's always about the growth. It's
Yes.
always about the fortune favored Zoom. People had to stay at home, so people had to start. looking for ways to connect virtually. But
Hmm.
they didn't rest on their laurels. Every time I open my Zoom, I have Zoom because I have to have meetings with a bunch of people, da 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 da. I'm like, oh, there's a new feature. What's this?
Yeah,
I've never
really?
seen this before. Now we can do this. Yeah. So I really like they had serious issues with security where people
Hmm.
could
Yeah, I
hack
know.
Zoom accounts and things like that. And they worked on it and they put in secret passwords and they had rooms. Now they have breakout rooms and you can put, we're all in the same Zoom call, but five of us can go into another sub room in the call. So I love brands that iterate. I love brands
Hmm.
that it's the same thing. No, I love brands that that are passionate, that keep going back to the drawing board and say, how do we harness this new change in technology, this new feature, and how do we make a difference with that? So I would definitely say Netflix is up there for me from how they started to how they are now, and Zoom in the way that they could just sit there.
Yeah,
They could
that's
just
true.
because
Not they have a lot of business
the
going on.
COVID,
Yeah,
yeah, the
that's true.
COVID gave them business. They could have just sat there. So to continue to add value, even when you don't have to, suggests to me that
Yeah, that's true.
a service that is customer focused, because they've already made the money. They were in business for 9 years before COVID
Hmm.
happened, and they didn't make, and all of
Yeah,
a sudden their sales have gone stratospheric. They could just sit there and take your monthly subscription, and that would be fine. So yeah,
that's
I
true.
would say
Looking
those
at
two.
that way, that's true. I
Yeah.
didn't look at that way,
Yes, yes.
but I was
Those
thinking about
definitely
the
come up.
strategy online and this, and I don't see many things about Zoom. So I was like, I don't know.
No, for the
But
people
thinking
who
about
want
how they are
to,
growing and how they are
yes,
adapting and saying,
yes,
okay, we have
yes,
this
yes,
situation, how can we improve it?
yes,
Yeah, that
yes,
in that
yes.
ways they are
Constantly
doing really
looking
good.
to improve and add value for me is a big plus in my book for any brand that's invested in growing. Um, yeah, I just like that fact about them.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm, mhm.
Thank you very much. Would you like to say anything else to close? It was really interesting. We
No,
are here almost 1 hour and I didn't realize. Wow.
I know. I apologize. I
That's
know
really
I
good. No,
didn't.
no,
Yeah.
but it's good because I think it's something really important for all the
Hmm.
people in business to know.
Sure, sure.
Because
So
sometimes it's difficult for the people to understand why this is so important.
exactly. And I think for a lot of people, it can come across as ephemeral. Like, why is this important?
True.
Branding,
Yes.
logo, just put I don't know, a red arrow and a black circle, and it's a logo. And a lot of people associate branding with logo. They think it ends in
True.
the logo and things like that. But I think if people take a minute to be very intentional about how they how they plan on doing business, how they plan on creating their brand, what they want to be known for. And I know that a lot of the
Yes.
brands I've been mentioning are very, very high visibility brand, but you can be as visible with you can follow the same values even if you're just a startup, even if you're
True.
just a small brand, even if you're just
A person.
you're just a person, even if
Yeah.
you only have 200 customers, even if you don't have to be Coca-Cola to have exemplary branding. And I think it's
True.
very important, and once you have your branding in place, it gives so much clarity. It's
Hmm.
easy. Hey boss, should we sell this? Does it align with our values? Does it align with our brands?
Hmm.
Yes, let's do it. Does it align with our values? Does it align with our... No, we don't do it. It just
Yeah,
gives
so
so much
easy.
clarity and direction as to what the next steps should be for any brand.
Yes, true. You have to start and invest time in doing the strategy and everything, but when everything is set up,
Absolutely.
that's it.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, if I wanted to say anything at all, it would be to say thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. It was really great
Thank
being
you, Rachel.
across the virtual table from you.
Yes.
And also to say well done on the series, well done on what you're doing, well done on connecting, well done on this knowledge share, making this information available. It is all impactful and useful, and I think there's a lot to be learned from the content that you put out there. So yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations. You're doing amazing work, and here's to a fantastic year ahead.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you.
most
Oh, we have
welcome.
another question. We have
Oh, okay,
another question.
okay.
So we are not leaving yet. But thank you very
Okay,
much for your kind words,
you're
Rachel.
most welcome.
Okay, so one question. How do you
Hmm.
identify what changes or improvements to make to improve your brand? This
Fantastic
is a
question.
good question. This is a really good
Yes,
question too.
yes,
We have
yes,
two good, really good questions.
yes, yes. It's through iteration, feedback and iteration, feedback and iteration. You don't make the changes. The public will tell your
Mhm.
customers, your consumers will tell you the changes. Put if you know competitors, if there are people in your field that you know are follow their social media handles, find out what they do, find out what praises their followers say. Hey, I walked into your shop and I had this, it was so great. I came for a haircut and the lady offered me a cup of coffee. It was so nice to just sit back and have a nice cup of before the hair started. This is interesting. So
Mhm.
people, maybe there should be like a water fountain, or maybe there should be, I'm not saying copy everything, but
Good
find out what
ideas.
your competition
Mhm.
is doing. Find out how you can add value. Find out what your consumers are complaining about. I think we've already covered this. Find out where you're dropping the ball when it comes to consistency and your brand messaging and things like that. So I've seen in some shops where someone says, "Oh, but I went into their Liverpool store and they had this, but then if you go into their Newcastle store, they don't have it." And if you go into,
Mhm.
so are you offering, are your products uniform? Do you have an online presence? Do you have an e-commerce presence? Can someone contact you online? Can someone buy from you online? Do you have a logistics process in place? Do you find out what your competitors are doing that is making the difference to their customers? If your competitor is doing something, so say for example, you walked into your competitor's store and they offered you a cup of coffee and you didn't drink it, and then you go online and nobody's talking about this coffee, should you rush out to buy a coffee machine with
Mhm.
coffee beans? Probably not. It's not really making any impact. It's not really making any difference. No one cares about this coffee. Leave it alone. There's no need for it. If it is making a difference, if competitors, it could even be pricing. So it could be, oh, Gemma's store is so expensive. When I want my mugs, I go into uh, Antonio's store for my mugs, right? So I go into Antonio's store for my mugs. Then you say, oh my God, if everybody's going to, maybe I need to drop my price. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm just too expensive. Maybe not. Maybe you
Mhm.
need to add value to justify your price. I know for a
True.
fact that I can buy the same tray in Tesco's for £10, but if I were to buy the exact same tray in Harrods, it would probably cost me £40. Now,
Mhm.
does that mean Harrods should drop their prices to £10? No, they're Harrods. They've
Yes.
established their brand as a high-end quality brand. So if your services are more expensive, you need to justify why. What is the value
Mhm.
that you're adding that gives you the nerve to call this tray a £40 tray? So I think it really is about taking in that feedback and iterating, changing the way you do business so
Mhm.
that you improve. You don't sit there and just say, I think this would be better if it was red, and I think this would be better if it was yellow. No, you don't tinker with the products or with the offering unless there is reason to. If your whatever your customers are telling you is the way forward. That's what you
Okay.
need to do.
Thank you very much for your questions
You're
again,
most
Rachel.
welcome.
Thank you very much for joining us. It was a
You're very
pleasure to
welcome.
have you here, and it was a really
It was
nice
a
talk. We
pleasure to
spent
be here.
almost 1 hour and we didn't realize. So this is a good
Yeah,
sign.
it's really flown by. Thank you so much for having
Yeah.
me, and I'm looking forward to watching even more of your sessions. So,
Okay,
um, looking forward to more.
great.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a nice
Thank
evening,
you.
Rachel.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.